Welcome back to another episode of the Unscripted Michigan State podcast presented by the Field of 68. We are recording this episode after a win, Gregory. After wins, I'm sorry, I didn't ask to that. After a couple of wins, so I'm glad to get back on the happy train here. Some more positive thoughts. Those who have been listening to our last couple of episodes, I think they've been getting a lot of positive thoughts from you, but not as much from me. But I'm gonna come around on the positivity train this time around. First off, how are we doing, Gregory?
Doing great. We made the people wait after the wins. We kind of came on and killed them after the Northwestern game. I think it was rightfully so. And then they had a great win at Penn State that I'm pretty excited to talk about. Took care of business at home against Brown. We've been MIA. I don't know how many listeners know this, but we went on our first of 6 road trips this year, filming a show called College Hoops to Go for the Field of 68. So we were at Nebraska for Purdue at Nebraska, followed by at Iowa for Wisconsin at Iowa. Had a blast, super fun, but made it a little hard to record on our typical schedule. So appreciate the patience from everybody watching. And also, really big news we need to break, my friend. You are officially a Spartans Rivals.com writer. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I will be picking up the pen. You inspired me with this, actually, Gregory, because Greg, for those of you who don't know, Greg is the pen of Sleepers Media. I guess I'm just me of Sleepers Media, but Gregory's the pen of Sleepers Media. But I'll be doing, some game preview things, game review, hopefully some film breakdown, things like that. So be sure to look out for that. Just more opportunities to talk about my Spartans, that I hold so near and dear to my heart. But let's get into this Penn State win. First of all, before we were talking about the game, we mentioned that playing this Penn State team, this is a team of 40% three-point shooters. Jalen Pickett was at the time, and honestly, I would say still is, probably the best point guard in the Big Ten. And we were reeling a little bit. We had the losses in the PK 80. Notre Dame was a very tough game. This was a very tough matchup for the Spartans, and I think we made that evident on our last episode. And we came in with a mindset, and we paid attention to detail, and we were able to force Penn State into some tough shots. Honestly, the best game plan that I think we had during that game was the fact that we kind of let Jalen Pickett just go one-on-one. Like, I think we realized we had a good physical point guard in A.J. Hoggard, and we had a guy in Jalen Pickett who likes to post up guards, get to his spots, and then once he kind of overpowers you, you got to kind of send a double or else he's going to score over you. Jalen Pickett had a tougher time scoring over A.J. Hoggard. He did get his stats, but I think he struggled a little bit at the rim, and we were able to stay glued to shooters and not give them easy shots to get them going. And we were able to kind of pull away in that game. And A.J. Hoggard, man, I need every single game played in Pennsylvania for A.J. Hoggard. For the rest of the year, I want to make sure that we have a fund that we can get A.J. Hoggard's whole family to every single game for Michigan State for the rest of the year, because he played absolutely amazing. I mean, he basically put this team on his back. There was a stretch in the second half where he was absolutely unstoppable in the pick and roll, whether it was making plays for others or getting to the rim and scoring. And Greg, I think we might need a statement from you on A.J. Hoggard for things said earlier in the year. And I kind of would like to know where you stand on A.J. Hoggard right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair ask of me at this point. Let me talk this game specifically for AJ, and then I'll get into my statement or non-statement. We'll see. We'll build some suspense here. AJ was phenomenal. He was the story of this game. The stats are great: 23 points, 6 rebounds, only 2 assists, which surprised me because I thought he was really making the offense flow as he normally does. But the larger thing was exactly what you said. The Penn State offense is predicated around just Jalen Pickett's going to beat his man, and Jalen Pickett couldn't beat his man in this game. And I think that's really the first time this has happened all season to a Penn State team that I really like. I'm going to say this. I think this is Michigan State's best win of the season. I know they beat Kentucky on a neutral. That's the flashy win. That's the resume win. This Penn State team is really good. And say what you want about home court advantage. I thought this Penn State team at home was a matchup nightmare for Michigan State with how much they shoot threes, with how much they make their bigs chase on the perimeter. Like, I didn't see how Michigan State was going to hang in this game. I thought it was going to result in Joey Hauser and Madi Sissoko desperately closing out late and leaving guys open. And to an extent, I thought Penn State did some self-enforced errors. Like, they
definitely had a tough night shooting.
They shot 29% from three, which is very low compared to their season average, but credit goes to Michigan State for making some of those harder looks than I think they normally get. But yeah, the big thing was just like Pickett had to try and get his offense going before he could unlock the rest of the Penn State offense. And he never really did, because Hogard was strong enough and big enough and quick enough to stay in front, make him try to, bang in the post a little bit. And Pickett normally goes right through guards when he posts up. Like, he gets layups. He didn't get one layup in this game off of an attempted post up. So credit goes to AJ for sure. Also, just credit quickly, Hauser and Tyson at this point are so reliably productive, even if it doesn't feel that way, even if people, we make jokes at people's expense.
Who's that other guy besides Tyson that you said is?
Joey Hauser. Joey Hauser. 12 people said he didn't have a great game in this game. 12 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists in 35 minutes. Like, come on. This guy's a walking double-double at this point. Tyson Walker's a walking 15 shots. He's going to make 6 of them. He's going to score 12 to 18 points a game. Like, these are the things that were missing last year when you look at this team. And it was missing partially because of just rotations. Like, how are you supposed to be that productive when you only play 20 minutes? But it was also missing because these guys weren't this good. So credit to Hauser, credit to Walker, credit to Hogard, who are stepping up in a massive way when they still have a 0 at the center spot and they still have Malik Hall missing. Like, they get that Malik Hall spot back. All of a sudden, you've got 4 guys you can count on every single night. I think that would be huge for this team. But as far as my statement goes on AJ Hogard, I assume what you're going for is my AJ Hogard, Andre Curbelo comparison.
No. I just a statement. A statement is all.
Okay. Well, there's a statement on the game. I'm gonna go back to my comp, and I think what I said last episode after the Northwestern loss was AJ Hogard, to me, is a good stats, bad team guy. I'm not swung off of that yet. And all I would say when I go back to this Curbelo comp, if you're using this Penn State game, this brilliant AJ Hogard Penn State game, as the proving ground of why he's not like Andre Curbelo, you didn't watch enough Andre Curbelo. Like, the problem with Curbelo was that once every 6 games, he was masterful. And it gave you just enough that you're like, this guy could be the best player in the conference. And it did lead to wins. Sometimes, more often than not, it led to toxicity and losing basketball. I'm still sort of there with AJ. Like, it's very inconsistent. The one every 6 games is incredible, and give him credit. He deserves it. He won this Penn State game in front of his family, who was wearing DH Gate AJ Hogard jerseys. But I need to see it more. And it's a lull in the schedule coming now. If this is the AJ Hogard you get even one of every 2 games, though, that's when I can backtrack my statement and be like, oh, you got a guy.
But here's what I'm going to push back with you on that. I have 2 things I want to push back on that with you.
Okay.
One, AJ has responded to a benching like the best possible way that we could. Like, he was benched during that Northwestern. He wasn't benched. He was relieved of starting. Okay, bench. I don't know. When I say the word bench, I mean like bench, like he's not playing. I was relieved of starting duties because he was still playing. And he's responded with it's now at the time we're recording this, that's 3 straight consistent good AJ Hogard games.
Yeah, I would just push back that
he was the only one. He was the only one who came to play at Notre Dame. Yes, we got blown out, but he was the only one that came to play.
Well, that was before the Northwestern benching, though.
Oh God!
Which goes back to that like the Notre Dame and Northwestern games are essentially the biggest argument I have to why he's a big stats bad team guy. Like, he was the only good player on the team against Notre Dame, and Michigan State was horrendous. Like, if AJ Hogard is the only guy who shows up, the team's horrendous. Northwestern, again, I hear what you're saying, but I mean, he was benched, looked disengaged at parts of that game, finished with 12 points, and they lose at home to one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. Like, and that flipped, right? That's where we can now move on and say, okay, for him, I think the key is he played well and other guys played well. And whether you want to put that blame on Hogard if other guys aren't playing well, or you want to put the blame on the other guys, like my hypothesis has been that when AJ Hogard's playing well, typically that means other guys aren't. And to me, that goes back to last year. That goes back to his whole career at Michigan State to me at this point. Penn State was really the first time, at least this season, that I felt we had everybody going, or at least the three big ones going. And if they can continue to find that, that's when this team unlocks something that could be special.
You know what? I want to say, I'm going to stake my, whatever in the ground. I think we got to throw away the Curbelo comp. I think you got to let it die.
It's
what is going to have to happen for that to go away?
AJ Hoggard needs to do this in wins consistently. Right, that's not a crazy ask.
That's back to back for us, just so you know.
I mean, are we counting Brown like it means anything?
Hey, tough Brown Bears team took their best punch.
No, Brown does not mean a thing. But like, I get people associate Curbelo with such negativity that I get it. They don't like it. But like, I'm just going through some games last year for Curbelo. He had 20 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists against Purdue last year. Like, Curbelo has been brilliant in games. The thing is, the next game he has a total dud. And that's where I'm at with AJ right now. He definitely has turned a corner, but it needs to show up again in Big Ten play. And we'll know that in a couple weeks because we got to wait for a few games. But no, I'm not off the, like, one good game and a road win against Penn State is not enough for me to all of a sudden crown AJ Hoggard.
Hey, Penn State went into Champaign.
It's a good team. It's a good team. I said
we are probably the biggest Penn State fans
we are
right now that aren't actually went to Penn State or have been lifelong Penn State fans. I still think this Penn State team is a team that can make the tournament, and you don't want to see them in March either.
Absolutely. I am a huge Penn State fan. I just said, and I fully believe it, it's the best win for Michigan State this season, without a doubt to me. But let's also not lose sight of the fact it's Penn State. Like, are we really, like, we're ready to all of a sudden say, oh, AJ Hoggard's back. We got no concerns about him because he was great in a win against Penn State in which you were down 10 points early and Penn State couldn't make a 3 the whole night. Like,
I'm glad you asked that, Greg. Yes, I am ready to do that.
Okay. All right. I can get there. I can try and get there.
I am 100% ready to do that. And another point that I kind of want to go further into that you brought up just a little while ago too is that if we can get this consistency from AJ Hoggard, we had 2 consistencies: Hauser, Walker. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and put those guys in for their normal stats, just like you pointed out. Hauser, I mean, I think he's shaking the allegations of him having like a good game like every 2 games. If you take away the aircraft game, which was outside, by the way, for those who didn't know, Joey Hauser has been our most consistent player in my eyes. So I think that's going to continue. Tyson has continued to be aggressive, whether his shot is falling or not. On most nights, it is falling, and he's a guy we go to down the stretch. You plug in AJ Hoggard's consistency to that, get Malik Hall back healthy, plug him into that. Now we're starting to work with some things, and we're starting to kind of having something there. And I really want to get back to our team having that full health, because before the injuries did occur, I thought this team was a team that was kind of forming an identity. And I think it got lost a little bit with the injuries and guys playing that maybe shouldn't have been getting as many minutes as they should. I'm not saying Malik Hall is a defensive dynamo, but the gap between him and Pierre Brooks defensively is, I mean, it's unspeakable. Like, it's a very large gap. And, I don't like that the last 2 episodes we've kind of had to harp on Pierre's defense a lot. But, I mean, we got to state the obvious facts. He is really bad defensively, and getting Malik Hall back would help with that a lot, I think. So, I've kind of come back around to not thinking as negatively of this team as I did 2 weeks ago, because I can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel if this team gets back healthy. But on the other hand, like, we got guys with foot injuries, and we see what happens when we have these injuries. God forbid if some guy turns an ankle, then we're gonna have to go back to square one and start with this all again. So it keeps me up at night thinking that my team's going to be fighting against injuries and depth concerns going out through this whole year.
Yeah, no margin for error, but we knew that. But you're right. I mean, if Malik Hall is back,
I didn't know that the margin was like this though.
I
To be
think
honest,
I think we should have known. Like,
I mean, I didn't know it was this thin. It's thin.
I think we should have known. I think like if you lose one of the 4 starters or 5 starters, really, imagine losing Madi Sissoko, even though his stats have been nothing. Like, team screwed. We knew that. So I
I
think
mean, we missing some fouls.
I mean, we're missing some lob catches, right? Although Joey Hauser did, or not Joey Hauser, I'm sorry, Jackson Kohler had some, like, it seemed like they were trying to get him the ball against Penn State a little more. And I don't think that's nothing. Like, Penn State's one of the only teams in the league that you can post up Jackson Kohler as a 5, though, and let him go to work. And I found it interesting that seemed to be a big part of the game plan immediately. So when they do find a matchup that Kohler can take advantage of, they're going to get him the rock. That was good to see. And he had a couple nice moves in that game. After a really disastrous start, he turned it around a little bit. But no, I think, like, if you get Malik Hall back, you got to be ecstatic with the 4 guys. Like Hogard, Walker, Hall, Hauser. I put that up against any other 1 through 4 in the conference, really. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
roll the ball out there. We'll be able to have it. I mean, shit. While we're here, I'm taking that top 4 over Purdue's top 4.
Yeah, I think it's all preference. Like I put them in the category with Purdue, with Illinois. I don't know who else is at the top right now, but I mean, I guess Indiana. Indiana hasn't been very impressive, but like when you get the best of all 4 of those guys, that 4 is really good. And I think without Malik Hall, what it does is it forces those other 3. They have to be great, which is what happened in the Penn State game. Like, we finally got Hogard and Hauser and Walker all with a really good game at once. And that's not going to happen every night. And that's part of my issue is, like, if one of them just doesn't shoot well, like, the narrative and the spotlight comes right on them because they're not allowed to not shoot well. If one of them doesn't shoot well with this roster without Malik Hall right now, it's probably a loss. And that's so much pressure. It's high stakes for those 3 guys. I give them all credit because they've answered the bell really impressively. Like you said, Hogard did not early, but he's flipped the switch and he's turned it around big time in the last 2 weeks. Hauser, I think, has been great all season, other than the 1 dud early. And Walker has been everything I could ever ask for from him. So, yeah, you get Hall back, it helps. The other thing I would just say, you mentioned, like, Pierre Brooks, not what Malik Hall is defensively. Jaden Akins also isn't what Malik Hall is offensively. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that? I know he's hurt. We got to preface everything with he's hurt, but we are approaching halfway through this kid's college career, Cart. He has not made a statistical positive impact. He really hasn't. And I know he shows poppy moments, like the dunk against Villanova. We were there. We fell out of our seats. Like, he had some, I think it was Atlantis last year, where you just throw him into the fire, and the kid's a gamer. We know that. We're his biggest fans. But right now, I'm questioning the shot, Cart. He's 37% from the floor on his career, 33% this season, never cracked 40% from the floor as an offensive player. He shot 38% from 3 last year. That's down to 34% this year. From free throw, he's a career 61% shooter, 66% from the line this year. Like, and my thing with him too, Cart, is I still am convinced he's a true guard. But when he plays for this team, he plays the 3 full time. And that's because he has to. And I don't know that that's what's best for him. I think that we don't necessarily see some of the things I think could be special about Jaden Akins when he's forced to play a 3-and-D type role, which is what he's done for now a year and a half. So this is why, to me, Malik Hall is so critical, because right now all those minutes go to Brooks and Akins. Akins is still hobbled. We love him on potential, but Akins is not the offensive player Hall is going to be. And Brooks is a disaster defensively. You got to fix that. And the only way that fixes is when Malik Hall gets back.
Yeah, and just to comment kind of on the Jaden Akins thing, it's tough because the potential's there. Everyone sees it. And then he has injuries. And then he gets all that time off with a foot injury, throws off rhythm, throws off everything, probably all the summer work that he had. And then even in games that he's in, he's had issues with kind of like maybe stepping wrong. And I don't know if he's re-aggravating it. It's probably still sore. But, I mean, we got to go off what we're seeing. And, the percentages really say it all. I think he makes it a little bit harder on himself with his shot selection. I think that he shoots a lot of bad shots, not necessarily tough shots, but he shoots, deep twos, gets to the rim, kind of does like that. Sometimes I get crazy flashbacks of like that Rocket Watts, like one-footed left-hand floater type shot selection. I think he could improve a lot of his percentages just on shot selection alone. Because to be honest, if I could go back and like look at the past couple games where he's doing like catch and shoot threes or things of that nature, I think he's knocking it down at a pretty respectable clip, especially in that Brown game. He was able to just basically spot up to take the open shot and knock down some big ones too. So, you know what? I'm not gonna like hit the panic button necessarily with Jaden. Uh, but I think he could make stuff a lot easier on himself by fixing his shot selection.
Yeah.
And he has to, because the fact of the matter is we're not going to get a consistent performance from 4 out of those 4 guys that we mentioned every single game. I think it'd be great if it does, but on most nights it might be 3 out of 4. So whether it's one of the guys out of those 4 not playing his complete game, and then you're getting a step up from a guy like Akins, hopefully, or shit, even Pierre Brooks, maybe God forbid we get something from the center spot. Just to pick up on a little bit of production, but there's gonna have to be a guy every game, I think, who picks up the slack of one of those 4 guys.
Yeah, if you look at Pierre Brooks and Jaden Akins' offensive statistics, they are eerily similar, which is very interesting to me because
Well, no, well, Pierre's shooting about 40% from 3.
Pierre's 39% from 3, Jaden Akins is down. I'm just meaning like counting numbers. They're both 6.6 points, 7.3 points. Akins playing 21 minutes, Brooks playing 23 minutes, both 3 rebounds a game, both 1 assist per game. Like the production you're getting from them is pretty much a 50-50 split, which is fascinating to me because I think Akins is a way more talented player than Pierre Brooks, but you're getting Pierre Brooks production in less minutes from Jaden Akins. And we're now, like I said, we're almost halfway through this man's career. I still love the potential, but I do wonder, like, if he's gonna play full time off the ball next to Hogard and Walker, isn't Brooks better in that role anyway? Like, don't you just want a pure spot shooter next to those 2 guys spacing the floor? Like,
I do, but I really think that Pierre's 3-point percentage sometimes tricks people. Like, you can look at the actual percentage, but some of the threes that he takes and just the threat of him on the floor, like, you do not have to worry about Pierre driving past you. That's not going to happen. Sometimes I think that his threes also don't really come in the rhythm of what's going on in the offense necessarily. So I don't know. Jaden needs to be the guy that steps up for this team to reach our, what will be our ceiling. And like you said, we're halfway through, and we don't want to kind of go through a situation where we're just potentialing ourselves to death, and then we find ourselves like, oh shit, it's second semester of Jaden Akins as a junior, and we're still waiting for the pop.
yeah, he's got 7 games played this season, 0 games in double figure scoring, 0 games with more than 2 assists. Only 1 game where he played more than 23 minutes. That was the overtime game against Kentucky. So I still love him on paper, but I'm starting to just be like, man, like he's looking more and more just like a bench guy. And if that's due to injury, I feel for him because I think he can be a special player if he's healthy. But until he turns something into production actually on the court, you just desperately need Malik Hall back.
100%. And I think from everything I'm seeing, Malik Hall should be back probably around Christmas time, I'm guessing. Not sure how they're going to work him in. Obviously, with it being a foot injury, I'm sure they're going to not just throw him out to the fire, kind of work him in slowly. But, I mean, if he's coming back around Christmas, I believe Michigan State plays Michigan the 7th of January.
I think
Does
that's
that sound
right.
right?
I think that's
Yeah,
right.
so
We're gonna be there at that game, by the way.
we are going to be there. So, hopefully we have a healthy team going into that game. Michigan State could always go either way, no matter what teams are doing what during the season. But speaking of the Big Ten road trip, I think one of the best parts about that is that we have boots on the ground for Big Ten teams. Okay, we got 4 scouting reports now for Big Ten teams that we have seen in person. We have flipped throughout the year on where we are at. First, it started off as a little 10 coming into the season. Then we convinced ourselves that it was more like a medium 10, like light, medium 10 maybe. Now I think it might be even coming back to medium 10. I think I'd probably keep it at that. I think this conference is open still, more open than I had thought. I think that I see deficiencies that I didn't see with all those top teams. Even a team like Purdue, who we saw play Nebraska, and credit to Nebraska for being scrappy in that game. That's not a good basketball team. Hoiberg is running a shit show over there. So there's opportunities for this conference. There's opportunities for Michigan State if we have 4 healthy guys and we get production out of those guys. Where do you kind of see Michigan State's Big Ten outlook going through the rest of the conference schedule?
I mean, I think they could win it. I really do. Part of the reason I think they could win it is because I still think this conference is pretty horrible. And I'm not back.
Are we back? Are we back to little 10?
No, we're in medium 10 right now. But Cart, there's teams losing games that can't lose games in the fashion they are for this conference to be taken seriously. Like Maryland last night just lost by 40 at home to UCLA. And like there are a lot of Maryland fans. They started 8-0. They're like, oh, thank God we got rid of Turgeon. I'm like, have you ever watched what a Kevin Willard team does? Like, it's literally what Turgeon's teams did. They start great, and then they fall apart. They've lost 3 straight games now. They look horrible. Illinois is 0-2 in the conference with losses to 2 teams that lost their other games in the conference. Brad Underwood's making fart jokes at his best player's expense in the press conference. And then Purdue, who supposedly is the number 1 team in the country, we don't know how they escaped Lincoln, Nebraska with a win. That was a horrible game. Like Nebraska 100% should have won that game. They didn't. So I don't know what to do with any of this anymore. You just look in the standings. Purdue's 2-0, Wisconsin's 2-0. I think Wisconsin's is entirely schedule based. I don't think that team's very good. They got Iowa with Chris Murray out and with Aaron Eulis out, and that made a pretty big difference in my opinion. So I don't know. It's going to be another dogfight year where I think there's probably 10, 11 teams that all have a fair shot at feeling like they can make the NCAA tournament. I think the bottom of the Big Ten is as bad as it's ever been. Minnesota this year is the worst Big Ten team I've seen in my lifetime. I can't come up with a worse one. I just can't. Arkansas Pine Bluff had them on the ropes with like 5 minutes left in last night's game in the barn. Nebraska's horrible. I still think Nebraska or Northwestern's pretty bad, even though the advanced metrics show that they're all right. But everybody else, I think, has a shot to make the NCAA tournament. So that means you got 11 teams that just need to stack the resume and get the wins. And, as far as winning it goes, I don't think Purdue's going to run away with this conference. They would be my bet to win it today, just because I think Zach Edey he's better than all the other centers. And every team wants to play through their center. But Zach Edey's just better than all of them. So we'll see if that happens. But for Michigan State, nothing would surprise me. If they finish top 3 in this conference, I'm not overly surprised. If they finish as low as 10th in the conference, I don't think I would be overly surprised. Ken Pom, I will say, projects Michigan State to go 9-11 in Big Ten play, which would leave you with a 17-14 record at the end of the season, which seems a little low to me.
Good thing I'm an Evan Mia boy. I'm about to get all my homies hate KP shirts. Shout out to Ken Pom. But I mean, it's a what's the phrase for it? Crapshoot on what's going to happen in this Big Ten. To be honest with you, I think anybody could win it. Illinois kind of had a tough weekend. They let Penn State come into their house, but we pointed out earlier that Penn State's a good team. Indiana played the best team in the country in our eyes in Arizona, but I just see deficiencies with that team. Like they lost that game by pretty solid margin, and it took Race Thompson turning into Klay Thompson for that game to be close. That should have been a dog walking. So it's up for grabs. If anybody wants it, I think they can go take it. Purdue didn't even want it against Nebraska. Nebraska just gave it to them. So I'm still on board with you as far as Purdue probably being the team as the favorite right now. But like to quote the great Field of 68 newest After Dark member, Geo Baker, is anybody really scared of them? Is anybody really scared of Purdue? Is anybody scared of Indiana? Is anybody scared of Illinois? Like, I don't think anyone in the Big Ten is striking fear in each other right now.
No, they're not at all. And I think we've already seen what Michigan State's season could be in the Big Ten, because Northwestern at home was the third easiest game they'll have in the conference. They lose that game. Penn State on the road, one of their 5 hardest games of the year, they win that one. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a wild season with a lot of swings. I've told you, I think it's about finding the middle for Michigan State. It can't have too many emotional highs and lows with this group, with how low on bodies they are. You've got to find some stability. And I think a really good start would be winning the first 2 conference games at home that they have next week, or the next 2 conference games at home they have, which would be Nebraska and Michigan. If you can find a way to be 2-0 in those 2 games, sitting 3-1 in the Big Ten before you go to the Kohl Center and to Illinois on a Friday night the next week, that'd be pretty massive, because then you get one of those 2 and you're sitting in a really good spot. You don't want to be 2-2 needing to win maybe both of those games to stay in the conference race.
Yeah, because after those first, if we, like you said, if we get those first 2, that stretch after that is, no easy one. At the Kohl Center, at Illinois, Purdue at home, Rutgers at home, at Indiana, Iowa at home, at Purdue, at Rutgers, Maryland, at Ohio State. We start getting into it. So starting off 2-0 would be huge, especially because, it seems like most Big Ten teams are having trouble right now getting those first couple wins under the belt. Obviously, we lost to Northwestern to go along with that trend, but it's up in the air right now. If I had to pick where Michigan State would finish right now, I think I would go somewhere like 3rd. I think 3rd, fully healthy.
3rd in the Big Ten?
Fully healthy, yes.
Okay. That's very surprising to me. That I thought you'd be a little more bullish, just as we're just like talking through it, if you were going to actually rank them 3rd at the end.
I think right now I would go Purdue, Illinois, Michigan State.
Okay. Certainly possible.
Yeah, I'm down on Indiana.
I'm with you. I'm also down on Indiana. I think they're a middle of the pack team this year, but I don't know. I'd be closer to 5-6 range for Michigan State right now.
See, you know what? So after everything that we went through the last 2 years, everything that happened this summer, the talk of this season, we're right back in 5th and 6th.
You got to realize it's going to sound like I'm dissing, but it's not. That's a step forward for Michigan State from where they were last season.
Oh, that doesn't sound like a diss. That is a diss.
I don't think it's a diss. It's a fact. Like, didn't they finish? What they finished last year? I thought it was 8th in the conference.
7th, I think.
Get to 5th. That's a step forward. The year before was bad. Look, we all know this started as a sim the season concept, and it's better than that now. Nobody's expecting that. But yeah, 2 years ago, Michigan State finished 8th in the conference, 9-11. Last year, they finished 7th in the conference, 11-9. This year, KenPom projects you 9-11, which would have you around 8th in the conference. So you jump up to 5. That's a very successful year in a gauntlet Big Ten, even though I make fun of how there's no elite team in it. Like, there's 11 NCAA tournament worthy teams in this conference. I would be surprised, quite frankly. I think Michigan State's schedule is pretty tough. Like, you got to go at Wisconsin, at Illinois, at Indiana, at Purdue, at Rutgers, at Ohio State, at Michigan, at Iowa. Holy shit, Cart. Like, and I know we played the schedule game in the non-conference, but like, to me, those are arguably the 8 best teams.
Why is our Big Ten schedule so hard?
It's crazy. It's just bad luck, right? Because a lot of teams don't have that. So, I think, like, God forbid, a great result would be splitting those 4 games. And at that point with Northwestern, you're already 5 losses. You lose 1-2 that you shouldn't lose at home. I think that gets you in like the 4th, 5th range already. So we'll see.
You know what? You're right. Let me take a little bit of step back. That win over Penn State and that win over Browns got me acting up a little bit.
It's good though. That's what the people need, Cart. They need hope. They need optimism. And that's what you're here to bring. That's good.
And we just need to make sure that in these next couple games, even though it's so low on the schedule, please, God, no slip-ups.
Are you lumping Michigan into the lull schedule, by the way? A home against Michigan January 7th. Is that part of the lull in the schedule?
No, not with the new and improved Doug McDaniel now leading the team at point guard.
Oh, okay. So weren't worried about it with Mr. Princeton, but a little worried about it now that we got a 5'6" point guard.
Yeah, just a little bit. You know, AJ Hogarth's going to have him in hell in the post. Just let that be known.
There's going to be a lot at stake that game.
All right, we're going on about 30-ish minutes here. I kind of want to wrap this episode here in a second. I'll end with this. I'll end with a game because I know you love games so
much. Love games.
And I don't even know if you want to call this a game, but it's just a yes or no. Yes or no for me. That's all I want to get out of this. Joey Hauser makes an all Big Ten team.
Yes.
Michigan State reaches the semis of the Big Ten tournament.
Yes.
Wow, can I get a little clarification on that? I know it's supposed to be a quick game. Do you think we reach the semis of the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah,
because if we're in 8th, we're playing on that first day, right?
I think you're above 8th. I said 5th, 6th range.
Okay.
Which would put you don't have to play the 1 seed until the semi. I think Michigan State, still in a tournament setting, is one of the more dangerous teams in this conference. I trust Tom Izzo in a short 1-day prep setting more than I trust a lot of other coaches. We saw that last year. They made a little run in the Big Ten tournament. This year's team's a lot better than last year. The Big Ten is weaker this year than it was last year. I do. I think they'll make a run. Even if the regular season results aren't there, if everybody's healthy, honestly, I think they could win the Big Ten tournament. But semi, yeah, mark it down.
Okay. Michigan State makes the second weekend.
No,
because of seeding, or no because the team's not good enough.
I mean, it all depends on draw, but I think the best case scenario for Michigan State seeding wise right now is like a 6 seed, 5-6.
Yeah, I'll fight back. I'll fight back with you on this only because I think the rest of the country is not that good.
Yeah, that's fair too. That's very fair. I don't like anybody in the country really, and I don't know. I mean, Michigan State beat Kentucky on a neutral. Anything could happen. I'm not all the way there yet. If we get Malik Hall back, everybody's healthy, maybe. But I also need to see the starting center score a point, not go consecutive games with zeros, and that's happening in these last 2 weeks.
All we got to do just use Mahdi as a lob threat, no post touches, and just lobs and layups. L&L.
Yeah, but I mean, right now he's not getting lobs or layups. He has back-to-back games with 0. That's your starting center. So in games we're talking, the point guard's finally playing great. He's not getting a lob or layup. You're getting nothing out of the center spot, Cart. Nothing.
Everyone's talking about big man league, this big man country. The big man's dead, okay? That's coming from big man number 1. Let it die.
The big man's dead. Wow, you've swung all the way around. What are your answers to those questions?
I don't think that we make the semis of the Big Ten tournament. I do think Joey Hauser's on an all Big Ten team.
Good.
And I do think that we make a second weekend because I think that we can beat. I think that all 4 guys playing at top, at the level they can play, are top 4 guys, that is, and the country being the way it is, the landscape of basketball, I think anybody can be beat.
Okay. I don't hate any of that. I think it's all possible. It would be the first time anyone on this roster has made a second weekend. They got to do it.
Actually, wait, no. I was going to say Joey Hauser made a second weekend at Marquette, but he didn't. They lost to Murray State.
He didn't.
Wow.
They said that kind of like I've said this in regards to Indiana a ton. We crown them, but nobody on that roster's ever finished higher than 8.
Wait a second. Steven Izzo's made a second weekend.
Okay. Just as an attendee?
Hey, on the roster, that's all I'm saying. All right, last question I'll leave you from this little game. By the end of the year, yes or no, will the Curbelo comp die for AJ Hogarth?
I really don't think so. I really don't.
I think it goes away. That's my answer to that question. It goes away.
I will say this. If it is deserved to go away, it will go away. I personally don't think it will, but I will not hesitate. If we get through, honestly, you get through the Michigan game and Hogarth's consistently good and Michigan State's winning games and the guys around him are playing good while he's playing good, comp's dead. But I have a funny, sad feeling that might not be the case, my friend.
Well, that's why the game of basketball is so beautiful, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. Wow, first episode I've used wait and see this year. That's good for me.
That's how you know we're in the heart of the season when I get a wait and see from you. That's good.
Yeah, God, I hate waiting to see, but I'll wrap the episode here. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, leave comments, likes. I do watch that, and I do look for that, and it means something to me. So make sure you do that. For another episode of the Unscripted, a Michigan State podcast presented by the Field of 68, I am Carter Elliott, my co-host Greg Waddell. We are out.